Hi, I'm Kit. This is Vernon, and we just watched Happy Death Day to You. So, Vernon, what did we just watch?
Okay, we just watched a horror. We just watched a horror sci-fi comedy. It's basically a sequel to 2 years ago's Happy Death Day, which was a slasher flick / comedy. Basically, the the gimmick for this sequel, as well as the previous film, are the same. It's Groundhog Day with a twist. The twist is it's Groundhog Day, and it's a slasher flick.
Yeah, so instead of Bill Murray falling asleep and then waking up to live the same day again, that girl dies.
Yeah, the girl gets brutally killed by a serial killer every time at the end of the day, and she wakes up at the beginning of the same day again in order to, I don't know, outwit her killer, figure out what's going on, what went wrong.
Yeah, so, well, in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray doesn't know how to stop the day from repeating.
But since this is a sequel, the final girl figured out how to stop everything from repeating, except everything is repeating again in the sequel. And now she's got to find out how to fix it.
I was pleasantly surprised. The movie turned out a lot better than I expected. I didn't watch the first one, but
I did.
But this one was like really entertaining.
So was the previous one, really.
Was it as good? Which one do you think is better?
Which one do I think is better? I think the first one was played straight for the first 1/3. This one was not played straight at all, even from the get-go. So it depends on whether you like your serial slasher flick to be somewhat horrifying and suspenseful for about the first 1/2 to 2/3, or whether you like to see a Back to the Future meta joke narrative, genre savvy comedy about it.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this movie was that from the trailer, it looked like they were trying to mix horror and comedy, and I was curious to see whether they would succeed, because that's a hard thing to do, and I think they succeeded very well here.
Yeah.
I mean, just not just as a horror comedy, but I mean, I laughed more than I've laughed for a long time at a movie. This was really funny. But it's not just that it was really funny, but it's also very engaging. The ideas, the plot was very unexpected. Halfway through watching the movie, I was thinking that, hey, this movie might have been written by Max Landis. But it's not.
What did Mike Landis write previously then?
Well, Max Landis wrote The Chronicle, but he also wrote the Netflix miniseries Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. The first season was actually a bit like this. There was a bit of a time travel thing. But the thing is, it was like very inventive, very complicated, and you cannot believe that he will actually manage to wrap up all the plot threads properly. And he does. I mean, it makes total sense. Actually, Max Landis is better, because this one, there are some things that don't really make sense. They didn't really explain. Like they had this thing with the two copies of the guy, right?
Oh yeah,
that wasn't explained.
Yeah, and that just promptly dropped out after the guy appeared and the real plot started. So.
And also like spoilers, okay? Total spoilers.
Spoilers! All the cast from the first movie are back.
Yeah. So
except some of them play slightly different parts because different characters. Because plot twist in this one is that instead of getting looped back in time again and again, the girl gets sent to a slightly different alternate universe.
Yeah, but they do the looping first, you see. So you think that, okay, it's going to be another looping story, but then about like 1/4 through, it changes. So that's, whoa, yeah, nice surprise. So also, when the girl goes into the alternate universe, what happens to the girl in the alternate universe?
Nobody knows.
Yeah, does she go back to the first girls universe. You know, it's like so Max Landis. You don't have to worry. You're still number one for complicated, totally batshit crazy plots.
Although I would say this, this this sequel is sort of like there are so many in-jokes that reference the original movie.
Which of course I didn't get at all.
A lot of scenes are sort of twists, and a lot of the scenes in this movie are parodies or twists of scenes in the first movie. So I thought it was quite entertaining for someone who actually did watch the first film.
But even if you didn't watch the first film, I totally enjoyed it.
The cast has some real comic chemistry with each other.
Also, the way they did some of the things, like they played some scenes like in slow motion and with some like super dramatic music. It was so funny. I don't know why, but it was really funny. So that's good directorial work.
Yeah, tonally it is very different from the first movie. First movie played up more on the horror suspense because you didn't realize there was a sci-fi element to the looping until maybe the last 20 minutes. But this one plays it up more as a comedy, which I feel, as a sequel, it gives us something that is sufficiently different from the original movie. I think if the first film was Groundhog Day with a serial killer, this is the second film is not Groundhog Day with a serial killer. It's more like Back to the Future with a serial killer, but more specifically, Back to the Future 2 with a serial killer.
I think it's also closer to like Edge of Tomorrow, which I'm guessing was also inspired by Groundhog Day.
Everything is inspired by Groundhog Day #. That was the one where Tom Cruise dies again and again, or was it Emily Blunt who dies again and again?
It's Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, really?
And that one was quite funny also. The way he dies.
Yeah, because everyone in the cinema secretly wants to see Tom Cruise die on screen as many times as possible. That was a gimmick that brought people watching it. Seriously.
The thing about Groundhog Day is that it now has
it's a cult classic by now.
Not just cult, but it has a fantastic reputation. And there's a story about
Bill Murray?
No, a university organizing a seminar, and they had professors fighting to write the synopsis for Groundhog Day.
But which department was it? Physics or literature or film?
I think it was philosophy.
Not only are there lots of in-jokes referencing the first movie, there are a lot of jokes referencing films like Back to the Future.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, They Live.
One thing to look out for in movies is that if there's a movie shown within the movie,
like Black Lagoon was shown in this movie.
The creature from Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. It could be just the director's favorite movie or something. In the last Wolverine movie, what they had showing...
The one based on Old Man Logan where Charles Xavier is senile.
What
right?
they were showing in the hotel TV was Shane.
Yeah, but that was an artistic choice. It was a deliberate choice because
exactly.
The director wanted to set this Wolverine movie as a western.
Exactly, that's my point.
Or more like a ironic western.
Yeah, so
not a heroic one.
So that's why I'm saying that the movies playing in the background in movies often have a meaning to them. They're not random. So I don't know why the creature from the Black Lagoon was shown here.
Another way to find out what a movie director is trying to say is to look at movie posters in any character's dorm room or room.
Well, that might just reflect the character more. because it's really part of the character's environment. He chose those posters, right?
Yeah.
But something on a TV is like more random, so they've got more leeway to put something that's not really representative of the character.
True.
For example, Jan de Bont, who directed Twister, he directed Speed 1 and Speed 2. What you see playing in the movie, showing in his movies, they're all Stanley Kubrick movies. I think
Because he's a great fan,
Yeah.
big fan of Stanley Kubrick.
yeah. So it's got nothing to do with the movie. It's kind of like a message from the director. I'm a
Shout
Kubrick.
out, yeah.
Yeah. Another similar movie that we can compare this to is Scream.
The original, because it was written and directed by Wes Craven after all, after a long time in doldrums or hiatus as you call it.
And of course, Wes Craven is the Nightmare on Elm Street guy and others. Other really good horror movies.
Yeah, but Scream was his attempt at creating a cerebral horror comedy that was both funny as well as frightening.
Or as Vernon...
And Genre Savvy, with Genre Savvy characters
I was
in
waiting for you to say that. Yes.
Did my job.
So yeah, Scream actually had this thing where the characters
Discuss who would be next to be killed.
based on horror movie tropes.
But I think what makes this slightly better than Scream in some aspects, not all aspects, some aspects, is that it doesn't set out deliberately to show you how smart it is. It actually has more fun.
Well,
Joking around with genre conventions rather than have characters try to impress the audience by saying, oh, I know this trope, I know that trope.
Well, I was impressed because at that time, even now, I did not notice those tropes, and when it was mentioned, it was like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but these days you have something called tvtropes.com or .org, which tells you all the tropes there are.
I think I was reminded of Scream because they were like original, atypical slasher movies.
I like the new direction for this movie. I did not get the Scream vibe from the first movie because it was mostly played very, very straight. But the Scream vibe is a lot stronger in this movie. Like what I say, I like my sequel slightly different and if possible, sufficiently different in order to warrant my extra spending to watch what is essentially the same movie.
And I think this is a good example of how story really matters, because the budget of this movie was $9 million US.
Which is cheaper than Glass.
About half.
Half. And it actually looked more expensive than Glass. Sorry, M. Night. I'm so sorry, M. Night.
The first movie was about, I think, $4.8 million US. So about half the second movie.
And I think the second movie had a high CGI budget. It had more flashing lights.
Which were nice, but weren't really necessary. It's just basically story, and you could have shot this as an amateur movie.
It is actually shot on location on a college campus.
Loyola University.
Loyola College or University, right?
No.
Yeah. Loyola.
That's why you should stay back for the end credits. They tell you stuff like this.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, some of this information is not
available on Wikipedia
or IMDb.
Very strange, isn't it?
Yeah. The production studio for this movie is Blumhouse, which is famous for these like low budget but still successful movies.
Mostly horror, but they've done stuff other than horror.
And they actually produced Night Shyamalan's Split.
What else did they make or produce?
Paranormal Activity.
Right.
I think they were the kind of pioneers. I think Paranormal Activity was like either the first or second to really do this thing of cheap movies and they are cheap partly because they are shot in one location. They are very cheap, but they still make a respectable amount of money, way more than the cost. They are very profitable.
Yeah, I'm impressed because Blumhouse, although it is a studio known for horror, indie horror, it does do really good dramas. For example, this year's Oscar nominee Black Klansman is produced by Blumhouse. Several years ago, 2-3 years ago, it had another Oscar nominated film. Yes, last year was Get Out, and the year before that they produced Whiplash, which J.K.
Wow.
Simmons as the music teacher from hell.
Yeah, Whiplash was like fantastic. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch Whiplash.
Yeah, instead of looking at Blumhouse as a genre studio, I'd rather look at Blumhouse as an indie script studio where they do really interesting scripts that kind of not conventional.
Okay, I think the Blumhouse equivalent from a few decades ago would be Roger Corman.
You would mean the 70s, back in the back in the decade of the first independent film producers, film directors.
So he was active for a few decades. I think until at least the 90s also.
Yeah.
But his influence maybe wasn't as great then. But I think Blumhouse seems like a high quality version of Roger Corman. No disrespect to Roger Corman.
Yeah, but if Roger Corman did B movies,
well, Roger Corman did do B movies. He was famous for like this really cheap but still profitable but exploitative movies. He would just identify a trend, and he would just make any old movie just to ride on the trend. And he's also famous because a lot of famous directors and writers and actors got their start with him because he didn't really seem to care. Anybody could just walk in the door and you'll just hand a camera to you and say, yeah, go and pick the movie. And people looked down on him for many years until very late in his career, somebody ran the numbers on his cost and revenue and realized how much money he was making.
House has produced James Wan, the Insidious guy. They have produced Orwell, the Paranormal Activity guy. They have produced M. Night.
Yay free market, yay capitalism, you know.
This movie was what, 1 hour and 40 minutes long, and I'm surprised at how many loops they managed to make without us actually getting bored of it.
Yeah, I was never bored in the movie. And I'm not really a horror fan or a slasher fan. And I really liked this.
I think the more slasher movie was the first one. This one is more of a comedy, if you like.
And science fiction.
And science fiction as well. I mean, it does have a very, very science fiction-ish post-credit scene, which we encourage you to stay in the cinemas for.
Stay for the post-credit scene. For me, is that I like being surprised by stories that I haven't seen before, and this one really worked well from that angle. That's all we got. Thank you for watching.
And we'll see you again next week. Remember, you're an adult, so you know what to do below.